Alright, hello again guys, it's me, Insane Gorilla here. I keep on saying monster. This is my my third time of trying to record this. As we last left off, Uraraka and Deku just came back from the fight on Harvest after a few years. At this point, I'm gonna sort of retcon something. It didn't take 5 years, it took 2. So everybody's 18 now. Mirio has become a full-fledged hero. And back to the forest, the training arc. Deku, Uraraka, Class 1A and Class 1B all survived the League of Villains assault with the help of the UNSC Marines that were with them, sorry. As I said also, Bakugo never got captured due to the training that he's been through. So Mr. Compressed had a hard time trying to deal with him. During that time, Oni took a little bit of blood sampling from people just in case there was any villains with a poison quirk, and just to make sure that the Spartans were okay as well, they took Deku and Uraraka back to a medical facility. Then they got the sad news that a member of Blue Team was sadly killed. It's not any of the main cast, by the way, as one of the Spartans that had worked with the Reds and Blues considerably a lot was put in as a replacement. And this Spartan turned out to be Carolina. As Carolina's new part in the team, she had a larger responsibility to look after them, because she was one of the more experienced at fighting, but not against the Covenant. And she even said, "I am not good with fighting the Cubs, or the Coveys. So please, go easy on me. We all don't know what we're truly doing." As another few months go past, and finally Deku and Uraraka come back with new prosthetic legs. Well, a prosthetic leg and arm for both of them. The arm only for both of them, and the leg only for Deku, because remember he lost his left leg and his right arm, so yeah. And Uraraka lost her left arm as well, so hey. As they finally come back down to the planet of Earth to meet up with, as Uraraka and Deku come back down to Earth, they meet up with uh, Inko Midoriya and Sumi Midoriya and the Urarakas, as both families get together to find out any more information about how the war's going. As eventually, during one of the conversations, Deku gets a call from Oni. He says, "Excuse me, but I'm going to have to take this." As Uraraka says, "They seem to be calling you a lot more than me, so now I'm coming out with you. Because if it's from Oni, then this involves both of us, as we are Spartans." As he says, "Okay then." As they both walk outside, their parents and, well, both of their parents and Izumi listen in on their conversation. As the message, as their phone call call goes, and it turns out it's from Catherine Halsey, saying Spartan 123, and 124. There's a discovery that Oni has made, and it involves some of your classmates. As both Uraraka and Deku get closer to the screen, because they do have a screen that they can look at. As Dr. Halsey continues to explain, we found out that their quirks are not all as they seem. In case with Katsuki Bakugo and Izumi Midoriya, your sister, by the way, Deku, both of them have been confirmed to be compatible with certain augmentations. For them to survive any chances of fighting the Covenant without you anywhere nearby, it would help them greatly, not only with their quirks, but with their physical stamina and bone density. I say this extremely cautiously around you, because I know this is your sister we're talking about. But even half of Class 1B and half of Class 1A have all been confirmed to be compatible for our newest project, the Spartan Freeze. You two have been more than insurmountable, there we go, in research of the Spartans. So we've taken the basis of the two famous headhunters, and also have taken into consideration that you both are the headhunters. So we're now putting you two in a basis, saying, and we'll be using you as I said, using you as a basis. These new Spartan Frees will have training of headhunters, and if any prove to have hyper-lethality, have a hyper-lethal vector, we will be taking them out of a group and placing them with you so they can have a lot more training. You guys have been through more combat than these guys have, so your experience is more valuable to us. Sierra 117, aka known as the Master Chief, is currently going to Reach to set up a small training camp for these new hopefuls. We're not sending any flash clones like we usually did with others. You two were the exception, because we never gave you any flash clones, because we just found you on accident. And situations sort of demanded that we take you both. Uraraka and Zuko Midoriya, you're both hereby put up to the rank of chiefs of Sierra 117, the Master Chief. You guys will be the chief operators on Reach on this new facility until we move it to a different location. You'll still be in charge, but you both will have a larger responsibility. As Deku says, I understand, ma'am, but you must realize not everybody is fit to become Spartans. Yes, they may be confirmed as compatible, but the mental and physical strain on the bodies of these young men and women now could be way too much for them to handle. You know as well as any of us know how terrifyingly dangerous this is. After all, with certain members of our group at such a young age dying due to the procedures, as their bodies just couldn't handle the mental stress and strain of A. having new pieces attached to the bones and also having implants attached as well simultaneously. Udaraka and I were barely able to survive. And yes, we did become stronger along with a lot of others, but but the rest of them never made it. I cannot have that happening to my sister. It is up to her what she does, what she goes and does. And I know Koski Bokago would jump at the chance, but he's most probably been trained as an ODSD, and I much prefer him to be one. With his explosion quirk, it could be really useful to the ODSDs. Instead of having to take plastic explosives, they can just bring the grenade himself. I do not want to put any of these children in that, well, to go through all of the stress. It'll break them physically and mentally. Then you've got to rebuild them from that mental state back up again. You were lucky with me and Udaraka because we had something that actually kept our sanity in check. And not only that, because me and her work too well together, you're going to promote both of us. We both have two different ideologies about training them. As much as I want to become like the Master Chief, I'm more happy of being a headhunter. As Udaraka perks up saying, I agree. We worked well together, but we're no chiefs. We're not like Sierra 117. We're not Master Chief. We're two headhunters, and we belong out there hunting our enemies. We are virtually the invisible of the invisible. The headhunters are legends, next to Master Chief. But we are not him. He taught us everything we know today, and he's the best option you could pick for the training. We're not. We're headhunters, not babysitters. As Dr. Halsey chimes in and says, but you already have proven yourselves to be good at teaching. There's another reason why I told you to watch over Momo Yayarozu for a while. And had you go to Class 1A, you two made such an impact that when you two walked in through the doors the second day, everybody sat down and not made any noise. So you two have proven yourselves to be more than capable of looking after such a group. As eventually Izumi says, I'll do it. As as Deku and Udaraka look over to see Izumi and Inko and the Midoriyas, saying, if the girl wants to do it, if she wants to become a Spartan, let her become one. She has you two to look after her and to also guide her through the process of becoming a Spartan. You two know the procedures in and out like anybody else because you two have lived through it. As Dr. Catherine Halsey then says, again, this is up to her. Like you said, Sierra 123. This is up to her. And I will warn you, what he said was true. The damage that could be possibly done to your mental health and body itself is inconceivable. These two had each other to keep themselves company through the entire process. And not only that, these two became headhunters because of their lethality. Well, because of their lethal vectors. They became Titan and Wraith. And they became legends. During, during all their missions that they go on, they become legends. Them coming back with injuries as severe as this. Other Spartans have taken up the roles of becoming hyper lethal vectors. Not many of them surviving the Covenant's assault because they have no idea what they're doing. These two do. Going back to Harvest, when the Covenant first attacked, these two saw their tactics firsthand. They'd send in waves upon waves of vehicles, then send in the infantry to mop up. And these two were the first to take down a giant walking monstrosity of metal that we later now call a scarab. And a scarab could wipe out 3 whole armored columns single-handedly. Put 2 of them together, and they could wipe out 2, like around about 6 columns. Not to mention all the banshees, phantoms, ghosts, wraiths, and all the others. A wraith fighting a wraith. And the wraith's a vehicle, by the way. You two. The Covenant have technology far above our own. We're just barely hanging on. The weapons that we salvaged from the Covenant that you have defeated, we have reverse engineered them to make railguns. And these can take out infantry with shielding pretty well. But against vehicles, it'll take multiple shots to take them out. A scarab will take hundreds. Not unless we get aboard and destroy its main core. Which we're going to leave to you two, because you two are supposedly now the experts on destroying scarabs. As Azumi still says, brother, please. I want to become a Spartan to defend humanity. Humanity is humanity. We can't lose our humanity to aliens who just want to kill us because their gods demand it. Their gods may be wrong about us, and it's up to us to show the civilians of these aliens that humanity will fight on. Even if 90% of the population of humanity's population turn into genetically modified fucking super soldiers. Just to prove a point, saying we will risk everything to beat you back. We don't care if you got ships, we've got heart, and we've got the mindset, and we've got the soul to continue going. And our ghosts will haunt you for the rest of your lives. Until you realize that your gods were false and wrong. As Azumi eventually ends up getting on her hands and knees and begging her brother to take her in as a Spartan. Eventually, Dr. Halsey perks up again, saying she's not going to let up until you take her in. So please, bring her to us, along with anybody else who becomes Spartans. Hell, go to the school, and I'll turn up, and I'll give them all the news. Class 1A and Class 1B simultaneously. As eventually they do that, as Class 1B and Class 1A both look at each other, thinking of why. Why did they get called here? As Dr. Halsey and the Spartan and two Spartans, aka Wraith and Titan, walk through. Everybody doesn't know that Wraith is Uraraka just yet, but Zuko takes his helmet off as everybody sort of screams in excitement, saying, "It's one of ours. It's one of the teaching assistants. So he was a Spartan." As he puts up his hand, saying, telling everybody to shut up, as they immediately do. As he nervously says, "I don't know how to say this, but Oni has found something within a lot of you here. I don't know. I can't say it all because I don't want to put you all through this, but everything is up to you. So I'm going to let Dr. Halsey explain this." As they all look around to each other and say, "Who the hell's Dr. Halsey?" As Dr. Halsey then walks in with other Spartans, saying, "That's me. My name is Dr. Catherine Halsey, and I am the woman in charge. Well, I am the woman who first came up with the Spartan 2 program. Now Oni has come up with the Spartan 3 program, and the Spartan 3s are going to be a little bit better than Spartan 2s, but only by a little. All of you here have been proven compatible for augmentation. As Aizawa and the Class 1B's teachers say, no, you can't just take kids and take them. You can't just take the kids and make them into super soldiers. Not like you most probably did to those two. It's unfair. Think about their families. Their families want them to become heroes. A lot of them have risked everything to give them this education into becoming heroes. And if you take them away and send them off to war, you're just going to end up ripping families apart." As Deku just turns around and says, "I'm sorry, but we're at war with an enemy that doesn't care for kids." As Deku pulls out a hologram of him and Uraraka stumbling a bunch of orphans surrounding a pile of human remains, as they all, well, not human remains, a UNSC body, or several, as they pick up the weapons and aim it at the Spartans. As Deku says, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa. Ease up, we're friends. We're not the Covenant." As one of the kids stands up shaking, saying, "Prove it. Prove that you're not here to kill us. Prove that you are here to save us." As Deku takes off his helmet, saying, "Easy, kid, okay? Tell me your name. Put down the gun and tell me your name." As he then gives him his name as he puts down the gun. As all the rest do the same, put down the guns and say their names. And this is before Deku lost his arm and leg. As he says, good, okay? We're friends. We're from the UNSC." As they hear the words of the UNSC, their eyes light up with hope as they all start crying, saying, "So you didn't abandon us here?" As Izuku Midoriya said, "No, we didn't abandon you here. Our fleet was entirely annihilated. We were totally unprepared for this new aggressor. We are making plans on resisting for as long as possible. So if we find any vehicles capable of flight, we'll be using them. We're hoping that Reach or any big fleet that can push back the Covenant even a little bit turn up, so that they can evacuate you all. And as he says that, the hologram cuts out, as a lot of people are sad, and quite a few of them ask, "Where are the kids now?" As Uraraka, with a heavy heart, says, "They're dead." As soon as we found them, we started moving them out, and a Covenant Banshee strafed us with a few of its mates. We took out one, but the kids never made it. They were torn apart because they tried to get back inside the building. As we covered them, all the kids never made it. That's just to go to show how much these the Covenant don't care. To them, their gods are supreme, and we are nothing but filth. As Deku eventually puts his hand on her shoulder, she reaches up with her right arm and holds on to it. As a lot of people notice this, including Dr. Halsey, as eventually Uraraka just takes off her helmet and starts crying again. As everybody sees that she's also a Spartan and says, "You both were Spartans. We didn't believe you at first because we thought it was just a prank that you both were saying. But now that we just saw you do this, it proves to us that you are Spartans." As a lot of them raise their hands saying, "I'll go." As a few, or not a few, all of them raise their hands saying, "We'll go. We'll become Spartans." Only just to avenge those kids. They didn't deserve to get gunned down like animals. As the teachers couldn't stop them from going, as Dr. Halsey gives them all the rundown of what will happen to them if they fail. Fail the procedures, they could die. But all of them stand firm within their decisions, including Bakugo, who says, "I'm going to regret this. I'm going to drop out of my training as an ODSD. Those kids never deserved to get bombed and gunned down. Only animals that deserve to get put down do that. And no one should ever fire upon unarmed civilians, even their children. As we must probably tell through our own history, our history has been bloodied, has been filled with the lives of innocents. And we are most probably more animal, more barbaric than the Covenant. But at least we try to patch up our mistakes. The Covenant have just made a big mistake of their own. They've taken their first breath. It's about time they start taking their last. As everybody stands up and saying, "We'll become Spartans to avenge the fallen." As they all interlock their arms, saying, "We will become stronger together." As Azumi says, "We all have quirks, so how is this going to affect our quirks?" As Dr. Halsey says, "I don't know if it's going to affect your quirks or not. Just try not to use them whenever you're getting augmented, because the results could be catastrophic." Eventually, after a few months of training on Reach, because they all got sent to Reach, with Izuku and Uraraka watching over them, along with Noble Team. And Noble 6, who was also a headhunter, but a solo headhunter, walks up to them and talks to them, saying, "I don't like this. These kids should be having fun fulfilling their lives as students, not going to war. But after what you told them, they've got the fire in their eyes. That's the fire of self-destruction. But at the moment, the fire of self-destruction is what we need to turn this war around. The UNSC will not. Well, the UNSC won't say it, but we're losing this war. 300 Spartans were made within the first few months, doing an operation to destroy a Covenant fueling facility. Only 2 made it out, due to only having bad intel. I only thought they had pretty solid intel, but it turns out it was bad. The facility was kilometers long, packed to the brim with guards, and also packed to the brim with anti-air defenses that were brand new. Tons upon tons of soldiers were shot out of the sky before they even made planetfall in drop pods. The facility was destroyed eventually, but only 2 made it out. And if these kids do anything like that again, they're not going to survive because that'll be their first ever deployment. So please, you guys, train them well, train them properly, because we cannot have another accident like that again. If only doesn't get their act together, we're gonna lose our future. So please, train them well. Especially you, Izuku Midoriya. Train your sister like she's never been trained before. As Izuku just turns around and says, I just can't single out one person to be your favourite. Todoroki also says that you just can't single out one person, because otherwise they're just going to get annoyed. So you're going to have to equal the treatment out fairly. Eventually, after a few more months, they eventually get their first set of augmentations. Quite a lot of unknown characters do not end up not making it, apart from the main group that do. As even Kirishima barely made it, and his quirk of hardening got a lot stronger from it. As they eventually all start combat tests and combat training. As even Uraraka and Deku get in combat training of their own to show the class what combat means. As they literally pummel each other to the ground, and with their new prosthetic arms, it hurts a lot more. So they end up using their fleshy arms as they beat each other to a pulp, but know that it's just to show them what combat is. As they both then stop, saying, that is how we train all the time now. So unless you guys want to end up being used as target practice by the Covenant, pick out a partner and train with them. As a lot of people end up picking their own partners. Some girls going with girls and other boys going with boys. And quite a few of them then attach to each other, saying we'll become a team of 4. As eventually a fire team was made, considering of Bakugo, Ida, Kirishima, Bakugo, Ida, Momo, and Todoroki. They quickly became the 4 strongest because they had Bakugo, Bakugo, Ida, Momo, and Shoto Todoroki. They became They became one of the four strongest because they had each other and they actually trained a lot harder. And this forced others to actually pick up their training and push themselves beyond. Eventually, they all had a break and went back to Earth to continue their final stages of their training, along with Deku and Uraraka. But when they were leaving to go back, as they were leaving all their classes behind, they got told that they're being suspended for a long time now, until these guys are fully trained. Their training's now going to continue on Earth, as they've moved it to Earth. They may have to move it to an asteroid belt to continue the final stages of the training. As they continue training them for months on end, eventually they fully get all their augmentations and their Oni armor. Some have ODST armor, and others model themselves after Izuku, but having slightly different paint tinges, not to fully match him. Some copied George's designs, so that others copied Emil's, and some copycats, and a few copy June, as they found themselves very good with sniper rifles. Eventually, the training was done, and Uraraka and Deku went to their own homes, along with all the others, as their parents were scared after they got told that their kids chose to become Spartans. Oni's operation is now 100% confirmed to the world, so everybody now knows that Spartans exist, and that the Spartans are literally the next step of Spec Ops. Deku and Uraraka eventually get to their own home. Uraraka just gets her armor off because they now have the armor bays within their own house. As they get the armor off, as Uraraka steadily just walks into the house and goes upstairs to take a shower. Deku following, just shutting the door and going upstairs. Uraraka just grabs his hand and just says, "Follow me," as they both go in to the shower area and both take a shower together. As they discuss the training with the kids, as Deku still is very concerned about the class and his sister, as Uraraka's the same. But she says we can't worry about them now. Their fates are now their own. They're Spartans, but it doesn't mean you can't stop worrying about them, like I do. As Deku has a flashback of the kids that died, and him standing at their graves with Uraraka and Noble Six, who was just named Noble Six a few days later. He was named Noble Six a few days beforehand. Sorry. As he says, it's a shame. These kids, you, Uraraka, they didn't deserve to be used as lab rats for tests. They should have just left them, let them become their own individual people, and let them choose their own paths. These kids never deserved it. As he walks off, saying, I'm sorry, you two, but I've got to go to Reach. I'm now being fully deployed on Reach now, so I can't stay with you guys for anymore. I'll try and come back down whenever I've got a day off. As he leaves, as Uraraka and Deku both vow to each other to never leave each other's sides and to always stick with each other through their training. As Uraraka's voice steadily comes through saying Deku, Deku, Sierra 123 respond as it snaps him out of it. As she's literally up against him, leaning into his chest, saying, I'm sorry, but you just blanked out and I just hugged you, trying to get you to come back out of that mental state. Let me guess, the kids that all died. As Deku just nods his head, saying, yeah, as tears start flowing down his eyes, saying, I'm sorry, but those kids never deserved it. They didn't deserve to become like us, Spartans. Against their will, Oni left them flash clones, so they're dead anyway. And the parents will never know what truly happened to their real kids. A lot of them may be suspicious that their kids suddenly had a turn. They didn't eat what they usually eat. They didn't like what they usually liked. They didn't hang out with their friends. A lot of them were suspicious and most probably died due to unknown diseases that Oni most probably put in them. A lot of people were most probably very suspicious of that. Just look at her. As Deku says her, Uraraka immediately knew who he was talking about. She was on her way to school and Oni snatched her. A few days later, they found her flash clone. Her father believed something was wrong and immediately started causing a ruckus with Oni. As Oni started flagging him, and so did the insurrectionists they recruited him. Since then, he has gone to ground and no one can find him, not even Oni. As eventually, Uraraka turns his head towards her and leans in. And locking her lips with his, and then pulling away, saying, she still has things to fight for. Like you have something to fight for. You have two things to fight for. And now so do I. As she pulls away, about to let him go completely, he pulls her back in for another one. And says, now I've got 3 things. So you better find a third one to keep up. As she chuckles and laughs and leans in for a 4th. As they stay like that for a little while. Not knowing that they left the door to their back door open, someone sneaks in and finds them. As 2 people find them, as they both say ew. Next time, close the door before you start snogging like this in the bathroom. As they look over to see Bakugo and Asumi both sticking their tongues out saying ugh. As Uraraka and Deku both shout at them, saying, what the fuck are you two doing here? As Bakugo says, we just wanted to talk to you guys, but it looks like you two are very distracted right now. We could always come back tomorrow. As Asumi says, I knew you two liked each other, but I didn't realize you both were going to start doing it in a shower. Which Midoriya and Uraraka both said no, we're not going to start banging in the shower. Because we're both sensible. As Bakugo just laughs and says, yeah, right, you're both butt naked in a shower. If that's not a few signal flares, pardon the pun, but it kind of gives the word of saying you two are about to start going down on each other. As eventually he just shouts saying, get out, both of you, so we can get dressed. As Bakugo just shuts the door saying, if we hear Uraraka moaning in there, we know you two are up to something. As Uraraka just says, that's rude. It's not like we're both banging each other anyway. As Izumi says, I hope you guys aren't. You're not even married yet, even though you argue most of the time like a married couple. As Deku just similarly laughs to himself, saying in his head, she does not know the half of it right now. But goddamn, Uraraka's body. I forgot how much curvage she has with that skinny body of hers. As Uraraka thinks the same of Deku, but of how much muscle he stacked on during their training, saying to herself in her own head as well, I forgot how much muscle he had. His muscles are usually never on for show for long, because he always covers them. But seeing him like this made me remember the time where I accidentally walked in on him as he had his t-shirt off, working out in his own room with all of his equipment, listening to some music. It wasn't until I knocked on the door that he looked over and quickly put a t-shirt on and asked me how much did I see. As they both eventually finally get dressed as they walk out of the bathroom, as Bakugo and Izumi are downstairs playing a game of cards, along with half of the class that turned up. And yes, I'm adding all the class in, because this is going to get funny. As most of the class looks at them, and quite a few of them lean in to their shoulders, saying, well, leans onto their hands, saying, are you two done up there? We could hear you guys from down here. As Uraraka and Deku both say, shut up, as they ask if you guys want to join us for a game of cards. As Uraraka and Deku say sure, as they sit next to each other. Eventually, Uraraka just sits on Deku's lap. Eventually, fomenting that they are both now in a relationship with each other. Eventually, after a few hours, they all finish the card game. And because they moved it from the kitchen to the living room, which was big enough to fit all of them, a lot of them were sitting on the floor as Deku and Uraraka were sitting on a chair. Eventually, both of them falling asleep on each other. As Bakugo then gets a cover and covers both of them, as they all say, should we start taking pictures of them and sending them to their parents? Because they know who their parents are. And Bakugo says, along with Izumi, says no. Leave them to their rest. As they eventually walk out and leave, Izumi and Bakugo just staying with them so they can tell them when they wake up that they all left. Eventually, Bakugo and Izumi fall asleep as well, on two different sides of the room. It wasn't until someone knocked frantically on the door of of the house that they are all in did Izuku, Uraraka, Azumi, and Bokugo all wake up. As Deku walks over to the door and opens it to see that there's an Oni officer standing there. As he says, Sierra 123 and 124 get Sierra 6595 and 7293 ready immediately. Their final tests are coming up today, so they must be prepared. As Deku nods, with Uraraka saying sure, just give us some time to get our armor on, and we'll be there. As the only officer says good, because you were meant to be there 2 hours ago. As they say, did we seriously oversleep that badly? As he said yes, Dr. Halsey has tried to call you guys 4 times. In the end, she sent me. So get your asses in gear and get up to the only main office. And that office is over in London right now. It was originally over in America, but she had to move it to England. So get over to London and find Sierra 69 or Sierra 429-16 and Sierra 1337. And if you all have seen the little adaptation with Sierra 1337, you'll understand that he's more of a moron than the Reds and Blues. As they nod, saying fine, we'll go and get Izumi Midoriya and Katsuki Bakugo. As he says, I know both of them are in there, because I looked through the window of your house and noticed that all 4 of you are there. So you two better get yourselves up and ready as well. Get your shoes on, go and get your armor on, then go to London. I will not come back a second time. As he walks off. As Uraraka says, well, he's in a fun mood. And Admiral must have kicked him off of his pedestal some time ago. As Deku, as Izuku Midoriya's eyes then go skyward, as if he thinks he may know who did this. As he walks into the other room and says, you two heard that. You two head home, get some stuff, and tell your parents what's happening. As me and Uraraka will get our armor on, because we've got 2 armor bays at the back. Go and tell your parents what happened, and bring your armor along with you. If you have it there with you anyway. And you can put it on here. As they both go and do that, they end up coming back with their armor completely intact. Bakugo is out of breath along with Izumi because they had to quickly explain to the parents what was going on. As both of them said, just be careful, and why the hell do you have to go to London for this meeting? I thought you said the meeting was supposed to be over in America. As Bakugo and Izumi explain what happened. What happened is that Halsey had to move certain aspects to England, so things can operate a bit better for those who are a bit further away. And hey, who doesn't like coming over to England if not for the bad weather? I'm saying that now because it's foggy as fuck outside. Anyway, eventually they get to the new Oni building and finding Sierra 1337 along with his partner, who both look out, who both stand there tapping their feet, saying, where the living hells have you 4 been? The others are already here. And I'm talking about the Class 1B group and the Class 1A unit are here as well. Okay, granted, those groups didn't know that they were supposed to go to London, but you two did. Only told you that you were meant to go here for this new meeting. As Deku and Uraraka's minds have a flashback to where Dr. Halsey gave them the intel, saying, "Look, we're moving it from the United States of America to England because there are a lot of people from all over the world who are now joining. So we decided to make a new base in England. You guys will have to go to London to get the new coordinates for the base, which is out in the countryside, majorly." As they eventually say, "Yeah, sorry, we all four of us overslept." As Sierra 1337 just says, "Yeah, we've already been told that you two were caught in the shower together. Don't worry, I told them not to tell any of the higher ups, considering there's already two groups of Spartans already in a relationship with each other." As Deku says who, as he says, first it's Caboose Hatsume. And yes, Mei Hatsume's father is Caboose in this. And the daughter of the director who first came up with the Spartan project. I'm sort of shifting lore around again, sorry. As he says, the daughter of the director of one of the Spartan projects, she's also in a relationship as well. But unlike her, she does not have a child, unlike Caboose Hatsume. His daughter is in UA and she's one hell of an engineer. You can thank her for the designs on your arm and leg. On your arms and legs and leg. It was her idea to make synthetic arms for you. She's also going to come up with some fake muscles, well, with some actual muscle tissue along the muscles themselves. So your arms look normal, don't look like they've been welded in by a moron. Welded in place by a moron. At least it makes you look a lot more human. As Deku says, "No, I prefer to keep it like this, to show people that even veterans can come back heavily injured." As Uraraka says the same, saying, "If we come back looking like we were just made into Spartans doing a Superman pose, we would look completely like monsters and demons. And we want to look like monsters and demons, but with our with our new body parts showing, so it gives the enemy a reason to start fearing us." As they both walk into the new building to get the new information, as they eventually go to where the Oni office is, as Dr. Catherine Halsey greets them with a very annoyed and agitated tone, saying, "It took you long enough to get here. I don't want to hear your excuse, just don't be late again for another meeting such as this. Lord Admiral Hood is waiting for us in the communication room." As they both say Lord Admiral Hood, he's a rarity to see these days. Isn't he supposed to be leading the fleet against the Covenant? As she says, "No, he's not anymore. He's now Grand Admiral. That means he must stay over Earth at all times. But he's waiting for us for a meeting. So come on." He's already waiting for us in the meeting room. As they get there to see Lord Admiral Hood in the flesh. As both of them give a salute. Well, all four of them give a salute. As he says, "Don't be late again." As he starts the meeting. But anyway, I am leaving that here. Hope you like it. Like, comment, subscribe. Bye.